In this video, I'm going to show you how to use Figma to create iOS and Android launcher icons for your app, such as these ones that you can see over here. And before we get right into it, I want to mention one thing, and that is that my Figma skills are very basic, and I don't really do any professional work with it. However, knowing the basics is good enough if you want to create these icons from scratch. So trust me when I say that if I can do this, you can do it too. And you're welcome to follow along and repeat the same steps. Alright, so let's start by creating a new page. And then inside here, we're going to use the rectangle tool and create a square icon, which is going to be 1000 by 1000 pixels tall. And then we're gonna go ahead and change the color to pure white, like this. Next, I'm gonna go ahead and create two rectangle bars. The first one is gonna be 600 pixels wide by 180 pixels high. And here I want to choose some kind of red color. And since I already know which one I want to use, I can just type it in. And this is CD5B2A, like this. Next, I'm gonna go ahead and change the corner radius to 12 points, like this. And then I'm gonna go and create a copy of this rectangle. And I'm going to create a new one, which is 180 pixels wide by 400, like this. And then I'm going to align these two rectangles on the bottom left corner, like this. And once I'm done this, I can select them and hit Command G to group them. And I'm going to name this layer checkmark, like this. And now I can go here and change the angle to 45 degrees. And as we can see, this already starts to look like a checkmark. Now, the next thing that I want to do is to resize this checkmark so it takes about 75% of the available width, which is ideal for the iOS app icon. And the way I'm going to do this is to create a separate rectangle which will snap to the bounds of this shape. So let me go ahead and create a rectangle like this. And then what I'm going to do is to move it underneath the checkmark. And then I can make sure that it snaps exactly to the bounds of the shape, like this. And now I can go ahead and inspect these dimensions. And then I can click on this icon to constrain the proportions. And then I'm going to change the width to 750, like this. And then what I can do is to make sure that the rectangle is centered horizontally and vertically, like this. Next, I can get back to my shape and I can resize it to match the rectangle. So I can do this by holding down the Shift key, and then I can go ahead and increase the size like this. And here I just need to tweak it a little bit until I'm happy that it fits the rectangle. Then I can select this rectangle once again, and I can lock it so it doesn't move anymore. And at this stage, I can also hide it like this. And with this, we have actually completed the iOS icon. So what I can do is to select all these layers and group them together. And then I'm going to rename this to iOS app icon, like this. Next, let's go ahead and see if we can create the Android app icon. And just as a reminder, this is going to look very similar to the iOS one, but the shape inside it is going to be a bit smaller to account for the safe area on Android. So let me go ahead and make a copy of this and paste it like here. And then I'm going to rename this to Android app icon. And then I can open up these layers and I can unlock this bounding box and make it visible once again. And what I want to do this time is to resize its width to 500, which is exactly half of the size of the icon. And then I can go ahead and make sure that it's centered horizontally and vertically. And then I can go ahead and lock it so it doesn't move anymore. And the next step is to select this checkmark, and then I can press Shift once again to resize it. And what I want to do is to make sure that it fits the bounds inside this rectangle, like this. And I can just tweak this a little bit, like that. And then I can hide this bounding box. And if you're thinking that this checkbox looks too small, keep in mind that on Android, the safe area is much smaller than on iOS. And as you can see from this Android emulator that I have over here, all the icons show inside a circle. And based on my observations, it's best if the content of the icon fits comfortably within a circle that is 66% of the size of the background. And I can easily verify this by creating an ellipse over here. And here I can set the width to 666 and the height to 666 as well. And then I can make sure that it is centered like this. And I can also move it underneath the check mark like this. And this way I can easily see if the icon fits correctly. So let me go ahead and hide this. So this looks like good progress. However, we are not done yet, because on Android, we should export the foreground and the background separately. So let's go back to the design and make another copy like this. And then I can go ahead and rename this to Android app icon foreground. And then inside it, I can remove these two layers as I no longer need them. And then I can take this background layer and I can select this option to use it as a mask like this. And what this does is to hide the background while preserving the original size of the icon like this. Finally, let's go ahead and create one final copy of this icon and move it over here. And then I can go ahead and rename this to Android app icon background like this. And in this case, all I had to do is to select all these layers apart from the background and delete them. And as a result, both the Android foreground and background icons are ready. So the final step is to export all these icons. So let me select all the layers, and then I can click on this export button. And the important thing to notice is that by default, export will use the original size for each layer, which in our case is 1000 by 1000 pixels. However, our app icons should measure 1024 pixels. And we can easily configure the export size by typing 1024W inside this box, where W stands for width. And now that this is done, we can click on Export for Layers. And let me just create a new folder called Icon. And then I can save that in here. And now what I can do is to go ahead and open the Finder. And then I can select all these icons and open them. And this way I can verify if they look as expected, like this. And now that this is done, I can go back to the VS Code project. And then what I can do is to take these icons and bring them inside the assets folder like this. And then I can go ahead and open the pubspec.yaml file. And if I scroll down to this section about the Flutter launcher icons, I can make sure that all these paths point to the new files. So in summary, in this video, we have seen that with Figma, it's quite easy to generate some simple icons that respect the app icon guidelines on Android and iOS. And the last thing to mention is that if your app supports multiple flavors, you'll also want to make some copies of these icons, so you can more easily distinguish each app flavor based on the launcher icon. And while I'm not going to repeat all the steps in this video, I can show you the final result, where I've added 2 more sets of icons for the dev and staging flavors. And if you want, you can try to design these as an exercise. In any case, you can check the notes below where you'll find a link to this app icon template.